Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Michigan Department of Transportation's virtual public meeting for the I-94 Modernization Project. I am Nate Ford, Director of Public Engagement for H&TB and a member of the I-94 project team. Of course, we would prefer to be with you in person, but safety is our priority, and this format, though it has limitations, keeps everyone safe. The purpose of our meeting is to share information and answer your questions about the Burns Street, Cadillac Avenue, and Frontenac Street bridges that MDOT will be rebuilding starting this February through fall of 2021. The presentation will include information on the I-94 modernization project overall and on these three bridges, including upcoming and construction schedules, detour routes, and other details. This work is part of the ongoing Advanced Bridges program to rebuild the bridges over I-94 that are in the poorest condition in advance of rebuilding the freeway. The first 25 minutes of this 1-hour meeting will be devoted to the project presentation. For the remainder of the meeting, we will respond to your questions. This meeting will be recorded and the recordings will be posted on the I-94 website at i94detroit.org. Please note all attendees will be muted until we reach the Q&A segment of the meeting. To ask questions at that time, you will simply click the raised hand icon in the lower left of your screen. Or if you call in, press *9 to raise your hand. Or if you are using an assistive device with Windows, type Alt-Y or type Option-Y if you have a Mac. Before we move on, I would appreciate if everyone who joined by computer would take 2 minutes to complete our Title VI survey. The poll function should pop up on your screen right about now. The survey is required as part of our Title VI Civil Rights Act of 1964 and helps us assess our outreach efforts. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey and then we'll get started. Now, I would like to introduce Terry Stepanski, Senior Project Manager for the I-94 project, to start the presentation. Terry?
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about I-94. We've had several meetings over the years, and it's always great to talk about this project. It's a huge modernization project of I-94. We'll go into some detail, and we take this opportunity not only to talk about the three specific bridges that we're going to be focused on today, but also an overall project overview of the entire corridor. So I'll kick that off by talking about the overall project. Now, this is a slide here that does have a lot of information on it, but it really tells the story of I-94 as how we're going to build it and what really is going to be taking place over the years. And as you look on the right hand of the slide here, we highlighted Frontenac Street, Burns Street, and Cadillac. And those are the bridges, as Nate mentioned. We are going to focus on this meeting, but overall, I'd like to describe the I-94 project in its entirety, just to get a feel for how this all fits together and what we have planned in the next, about 17 years or so. And so anyway, the I-94 project we call it a modernization project because we're really focusing on modernizing this section of I-94 from, roughly the limits are I-96 to Connor Avenue. It's about 7 miles long, and we're focusing on increasing capacity, modernizing the freeway up to current standards, And first and foremost is to make the roadway safer. This section of freeway actually experiences a far greater number of crashes than should occur on a freeway of its type. It was built back in the 1950s, and it served the state of Michigan very well. But it is time to reconstruct I-94 up to current standards. So as I said, there's a lot of information on this slide. I'll just briefly go through some of the key points. But if you look to the right, we have it designated as segment 3. We're proposing to build I-94 from segment 3, segment 2, segment 1. It's kind of a countdown. And the reason why we're building it in that sequence is, although the entire project is very complex, building an urban freeway to fit into the city atmosphere with all the utilities and the real estate that we have to be involved with, and the bridges is very complex. But segment 3 is the lesser complex of the 3 segments. So we figure we can get the most bang for our buck and get this built quicker than some of the others, and the design isn't quite so complex. So we're starting on segment 3 with the construction, and then the easternmost section is the package 1. We have segment 3 broken up into 2 packages, package 1 and package 2. And the package 1, we're just starting the final design of I-94 package 1, and it'll be under construction from October 2023 to July 2026. And then we'll move with the second package, easterly, package 2, the next section on segment 3, and then segment 2 is Russell Street to Cass. You can see that tight bar on the top, segment 2. And then we'll move to the end, package 4, which will be under construction 2028 to 2030. And then finally, we'll be working on the Lodge interchange with I-94. That's very complex to maintain traffic and to see that we can build the freeway while also keeping traffic moving as greatly, as smoothly as we can. Because of course, we're in everything we do, we're considering mobility and how we want to be able to keep traffic moving the best we can while we construct this. And another key point about I-94 is improving connectivity. That was one of the things that we heard when we began down the path of improving I-94, is that what we need to do is really connect the community. We've worked closely with the city on that, and that's what, there's many bridges over I-94, so we're focused on making sure that we do the best we can to reconnect the community along this corridor and provide opportunities for pedestrians, for the motorists, of course, and the non-motorized community. So again, we're reconstructing 6.7, right around 7 miles of freeway over almost 70 bridges, and we're adding capacity along with safety along the entire corridor. So we're improving the freeway, we're working on the interchanges, we're reconstructing all the bridges, and also we're improving the service drives along the corridor and providing access east and west through the freeway. But we're also working to make sure the freeway fits into the community and really promotes the neighborhood environment. And one final thing too is we're improving the drainage along the corridor, and we're working closely with the city of Detroit and the Great Lakes Water Authority to make sure that our drainage meets the needs of the freeway, and also we're working with the community in a collaborative effort. Next slide, please. And now this is a little bit more detail on the corridor itself. And this rendering shows the existing freeway. It shows the roadway looks a little nicer out there than it actually is. But the purpose of this is to show how I-94 will change with the freeway. This rendering shows 3 lanes in each direction, and also the earth slopes on the side. And it is very important to us to make sure that we're able to reconstruct I-94, add the capacity, make the safety improvements, but still remain in the existing footprint of the freeway. As I said, that I-94 did kind of cut certain communities into when it was originally built, and we're working on reconnecting those communities. So we were focused on making the improvements necessary without increasing the footprint of I-94. So we're able to do that by excavating the dirt along the side slopes and building retaining walls. So by doing that, we're able to achieve or build an additional lane. We're able to widen the shoulders on both sides and also lengthen the entrance and exit ramps along the freeway. And the key thing about that is you see these dotted lines on both sides. We're able to do all that with really within the existing footprint. Sure, there is some right-of-way impact, some property that we will have to acquire along the corridor, but for a project of this size, the impacts aren't as great as what they would normally be if we weren't so focused on remaining within the existing footprint. So these are the main modernization components. Are the wider shoulders are so very important. The acceleration and deceleration ramps being lengthened to make for smoother entrancing and exiting of the freeway. So next slide, please. And this is just a bar showing the time frames of what we've been working on I-94. And actually, we've been developing I-94 probably since the 90s. But the important thing here is we did have a conceptual design many years ago, and that was designed from Detroit of the past. There's been a lot of changes in movement and traffic, changes in the population of the city, and we were really focused also on making sure that the future I-94 serves the needs of residents of the city of Detroit, of the motoring public, and it supports economic growth. And it is really that we are really building the exact freeway necessary for current traffic patterns and also patterns in the future. So what we did is even though we've been working on this a long time, we in the more recent past, starting in like 2015, we were looking at taking a second look at I-94. A lot of that was spurred on by comments that we received from the public. Some of the main things that we heard was that we really didn't need continuous service roads along the corridor, that service roads were important in some areas, but the important thing is that it connected the community. And so we looked at that and we modified the service roads so that we had service roads where they were needed, but then in other areas, there was a more neighborhood atmosphere that would fit into that part of the community. So we looked at that connectivity, as I mentioned several times. We made sure that we could replace important bridges, and we developed the cross section of bridges, the width of the bridges, so that they fit into the community. So we made these several modifications in response to stakeholder engagement and discussing these things with the stakeholders, with the city, and we also talked extensively with the Federal Highway Administration about this, and their response was that these are all good things, but we need to study these changes to look at the impacts and do the necessary work to make sure that the impacts are mitigated and we're taking care of the things that we need to take care of. So we moved forward with a supplemental environmental impact statement. We went through that process. We got public input in response to that study, and we completed that. And we're moving now forward with the approval of our supplemental impact statement into the first major portions of I-94, which I mentioned previously. It will begin in 2023. So we've been at this a long time. We've taken a lot of things, and the important point here is that we have listened to the public extensively throughout the whole process. And so with that, let me just add that we have had advanced bridges back on on the left-hand side of the diagram here, the graphic, it shows advanced bridges. And I said we're moving into the major components of the freeway itself. We have been working on advanced bridges, and those bridges we defined a certain group of bridges that were in poor condition that we really needed to fix before we worked on the overall freeway project. And the three bridges we're talking about today, Burns, Cadillac, and Frontenac, are three of those. There's several bridges that we've already done that you may have noticed. Gratiot, Van Dyke, French, and there's several bridges that we've been working on. So these are part of the advanced bridge phase that really need work now. So that's what we're doing. Next, please. And one of the things I mentioned this, but this is so important, I wanted to have a separate slide for this. We've worked closely with the city of Detroit on the development of the advance of the bridges along the corridor. Originally, we had wider bridges that maybe were wider than they needed to be, but that was based on traffic projections of the past. We looked at that, and based on discussions with the city of Detroit, we again looked at the width and size of the bridges to make sure they really fit into the community and provided the accessibility across the freeway and met the needs of pedestrians, of bicyclists, and of course of vehicular traffic. So again, we've been working with the city of Detroit to make sure that the bridges are the right size and fit into the community, provides the connections, and really meets the needs of all the users. And again, that was an important component because we did modify the bridges in the more recent past to fit the community. And some of the features, as I mentioned, wider sidewalks, bike lanes, to blend into the community. We've added some very decorative lighting and also a constellation pattern on the bridges that will be the same as the wall. And the interesting thing about that was a result of stakeholder engagement too. And that the constellation pattern represents the stars in the sky and as similar or to represent the navigation that was used, star navigation that was used by the Underground Railroad. So that's just kind of a sidebar issue as to why that was chosen. But that was an extensive stakeholder engagement that one of the things that we came up with as a result of discussion with the public. Next, please. And with that, I'm going to turn this over. I'll turn it over to our construction engineer, Chris Bradshaw, to talk specifically about the three bridges, Burns, Frontenac, and Cadillac, and talk about the schedule and some of the details on that. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Terry. Like Terry mentioned, my name is Chris Bradshaw with HNTB. I'm the project engineer on the Frontenac, Burns, and Cadillac bridges. On behalf of MDOT, I'm going to go over the construction schedule for these bridges. And you might have noticed the bridges were closed on February 8th. A couple weeks ago, this was to set up the detours and the pedestrian detours and some preliminary work before the bridges can be taken down, such as utility relocations and removals, fence removals. So Frontenac Street will be the first bridge demolished, and that is happening this weekend. Right now, the contractor is getting ready and preparing for that, for the freeway closure. And then the following weekend on February 26th, the Burns Street Bridge is planned to be demolished. And then as of right now, March 12th, the last bridge, Cadillac Avenue, would be demolished. The contractor plans on working at all three bridges at the same time and all throughout the summer. And the anticipated completion date is in late fall 2021. So this slide here is a comparison of the typical bridge cross-section between the existing and the proposed bridge. You'll see on the slide, currently the bridges have two 22-foot lanes, travel lanes with 8-foot wide sidewalks. So after the bridges are completed, the lanes would change from 22-foot to 11-foot lanes, still 2 lanes, but we're adding 2 bike lanes in each direction, 8 foot wide, and then the sidewalks will be widened to 10 feet. All this is happening within the same, almost the same footprint as the existing bridge. This adds more multimodal means of transportation, walking, biking, and then also still maintain the vehicle lanes. So with this, Mark Smith will be presenting next on the local and the freeway detours, and I'll hand it off to him now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. My name is Mark Smith with HNTV, and as Chris mentioned, I'm going to walk through some of the highlights of the detour routes for both pedestrians and vehicular traffic with the 3 bridge closures. So all 3 of the bridges that Chris had mentioned will be completely closed for the summer with posted detours. The detours are already, out in place for the local closures, and that's with, turn-by-turn guidance as you're approaching the bridges. So for the Frontenac Bridge, the traffic for both pedestrian and vehicular traffic will be detoured to the west to use the Concord Bridge. And this bridge was just actually recently reconstructed last year. So it's, a very good bridge with, wider sidewalks and will accommodate the vehicular traffic. Along with the closure at Frontenac, the westbound I-94 entrance ramp from Van Dyke will need to be closed. And the reason for this closure is on I-94, we're maintaining 3 lanes of traffic during the bridge construction by shifting traffic, onto the shoulder, or in some cases on a temporary, widening that we're constructing. And because of that, we have to close that ramp. And as I said, on I-94, 3 lanes will be maintained during your morning and afternoon commutes, during the week, but there will be some single lane closures during off-peak times. Traffic trying to enter the freeway that was previously entering at Van Dyke will be detoured over to Gratiot Avenue, as can be seen on the map. For the Burn Street Bridge, pedestrian traffic, you can see with the orange arrows here, would use Van Dyke to the west. And then traffic trying to cross the bridge heading in the north direction, we have them detoured over to Van Dyke, and traffic heading on the south direction over to McClellan. Both bridges would obviously be open for north and south traffic. We just had the route split to try and avoid the left-hand turns of vehicles, traveling across I-94. Along with the Burn Street bridge construction, there will be another ramp closure. This ramp is the eastbound I-94 entrance ramp from Van Dyke. Traffic that is trying to enter originally at this ramp would be detoured east on Harper and down to the Connor Avenue interchange ramp, and would be able to enter eastbound I-94 at that location. For the Cadillac Bridge, again, the pedestrian traffic, the orange arrow, which you see on the screen, they're being detoured over to the Gratiot Bridge, and the red arrow is indicated on the screen. That would be for the northbound traffic using the Gratiot Bridge again, and the southbound traffic on Cadillac would be detoured to the east over to the French Road Bridge. With the Cadillac Bridge, there are several ramps that are impacted with this construction, and this is again just due to the work zone on I-94. So kind of working in the eastbound direction. So as you're approaching Gratiot, the eastbound I-94 exit ramp to Gratiot, as well as the eastbound I-94 exit ramp to French would be closed. Traffic trying to exit at these 2 points would be detoured to exit at the Connor Avenue interchange, and then they could come up to the north and use Harper to get back to either French or Gratiot. As well on the eastbound side, the eastbound I-94 entrance ramp from Gratiot would be closed. And for this, we have traffic detoured over to the French Road where they can enter the freeway with that entrance ramp there. On the westbound side, the westbound I-94 entrance ramp from French will be closed. Traffic using this ramp would be detoured over to the Gratiot entrance ramp, and that is the orange arrow on your screen there. And the last ramp that is impacted here is the westbound I-94 exit ramp to Gratiot, and that's the black arrow you see. They would be detoured to Van Dyke, and then up to Harper, and then back to Gratiot. Lastly, so during the bridge demolitions and later in the summer when the bridge beams are set, there will be a freeway weekend closures on I-94, and this is between I-75 and Connor. The posted detour route will be using I-75 to Gratiot up to 8 Mile, then back to 94. Traffic coming towards the project on the east side, so westbound I-94 traffic would have access to I-94 all the way up to Connor, where there will be a hard closure. We're just trying to, as this map indicates, catch the traffic that is really trying to get through the area up at 8 Mile. But local access would have access all the way down to Connor. And with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Nate, who will walk us through the question and answering session.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, presenters. Now we will answer any questions you have. To ask a question, you simply click the raised hand icon in the lower left of your screen. Or if you called in, press *9 to raise your hand. Or if you're using an assistive device with Windows, type Alt-Y or type Option-Y if you have a Mac. I will call your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number so that you can verbally ask your question. Please make sure that your microphone is working and that you are unmuted. In addition, there is also a QA function in the bottom center of your screen. If you would like to submit your questions in writing, please do so. We understand that this is a virtual meeting. We cannot have the typical one-on-one conversations that we would normally have in-person meetings, but we're all making that adjustment. So with that, let's take the first question, and I'll kick it off with a question that we had in our chat. Terry, this one's for you. Why are you choosing buffered bike lanes rather than protected bike lanes? Unmute. Unmute, Terry. There you go.
There we go. All right.
All right.
I'll start off with that, and I can turn some of the response over to the other members of our team. But let me start off by saying, as I mentioned in my portion of the presentation, we had extensive discussion with the city of Detroit on cross sections of the local streets, and bike lanes were a major part of that. And I can remember the discussion leading to what width is appropriate. Should it be up on the sidewalk? Should it be down below? Should it be buffered? Should they be protected? How it fits best. So we had extensive discussions on that, and we worked with the city of Detroit, and we're continuing to have discussions on that. And we determined that where we are right now is the best that fits the current designs and the approaches for the bike lanes. But let me just say that where we stand is based on discussions with the city on how it best fits into their plan. And we're still open for continuing discussions as we work on the final design throughout the rest of the corridor and what meets the needs of their bike lanes along throughout the city.
Thank you, Terry. Do we have any additional questions? Again, please click the raised hand icon in the lower left of your screen. And then we will make sure that we get your question answered.
We have Jay with his hand raised, and and Nate, if you're ready, I will allow him to talk.
Please. Thank you.
All right, Jay, can you unmute yourself?
Okay.
Good morning, Jay.
Yes. How are you?
Well, thank you and welcome.
Yes, because I have a question about this rebuilding thing. I've been following this for a long time, and I'm wondering, like, when is the actual project going to start? And the thing, I mean, with you guys rebuilding the bridges, you kind of answered that one question. Like, I always assumed when you guys rebuilt the freeway, you were going to shut the entire thing down and knock down every single one instead of just doing one at a time. But since that's not going to happen, the thing is, how are you going to do the service drives? Because I know those cut off at random parts.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Jay. Terry, you want to take a step at that?
As part of our environmental document, we talk about rebuilding the service drives first. So we've got staging this to reconstruct the service drives, but we're able to reconstruct the service drives, and we're proposing to maintain traffic the best we can or find adequate detour routes. But throughout the construction of the service drives, we'll certainly provide all necessary access along the service drives that we need to. And so we'll stage the construction is to minimize impacts to local residents and as best we can, but there'll always be all the necessary access that we have to provide during construction. But we're going to be building the service drives first as when we begin down on the freeway. We'll start that, reconstruct the service drives, and then we'll be moving to the freeway itself in that same section. When we it'll be all part of a package. Both the service drives and the freeway down below will be constructed at the same time, starting with the service drives first. But we will do whatever we can to minimize the impact to residents along the service drive, as I said, during construction.
I see. And as for removing the 3rd Street Bridge, how is that going to work? Because I know the thing is like really huge and got those giant pillars.
Yeah. And we're actually, the 3rd Street Bridge, we're moving forward on that in another contract that's already been let for construction. And that's the reason. I know that provides access, but that removal is, as you know, the bridge is shut down. And we were proposing to remove that bridge so we can reconstruct the interchange up to current standards. And it doesn't fit back in, but we're able to shift traffic to remove the bridge and move traffic from one side to the other and close certain lanes when necessary in order to remove it. And actually, it's the removal of that bridge is similar to what we'd be doing on Burns, Cadillac, and Frontenac on the weekends when traffic is lower and would have less impact, is when we'd be shutting down the freeway. Generally, we shut down the freeway completely to demolish the existing bridges and to set the new beams on the new bridges. So that can be done on the weekends.
I see.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Jay. We're going to move on. We have questions coming in. And this question has come out of our chat. I live near I-94 in Frontenac. The I-94 Mount Elliott bridge has been under construction for over a year. With the Frontenac Burns Cadillac project, it is my understanding, and correct me, that the first available entrance to I-94 going west will be at the counter entrance. Mark, you want to take that? Thank you.
Sure. So Yep. So the Mount Elliott Bridge is still under construction. There will be some of the ramps around Mount Elliott that have been closed will be opening in the next few weeks. But if you're trying to enter I-94 in the westbound direction, there's a couple ramp options that you would have. There is an entrance ramp just west of Mount Elliott that enters I-94, and that's around East Grand Boulevard. And then your other option would be, going back towards Connor. So you could use Harper to get back to Connor and enter I-94 there.
All right, thank you, Mark. While we await other questions to be formulated, please, I want to encourage you to go back to if you haven't already, go back to the poll that was displayed on your screen and complete the Title VI survey that really helps us to better engage with our public, which is so important. All right, do I have any other questions? Please, this is the opportunity to ask any questions regarding the I-94 modernization project, and we appreciate your engagement. We have a question. What areas of homeowner property will be affected on the I-94, for the I-94 modernization project? What areas of homeowner property will be affected? That's a very, very broad question. And Terry, let's just talk a little bit about the impacts, where they were and where they are now, and really how we have listened to the public regarding those impacts to homeowners for the I-94 modernization project.
Yeah, sure, Nate. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, one of our main concerns is to minimize the footprint of I-94 and with that to keep the footprint as minimal as possible, and not really, we're really not expanding I-94. We're able to do that by removing those earth slopes, adding the lanes, and building retaining walls where the earth slopes were. So for the freeway itself, we're able to add that additional lane without widening the overall footprint. But so there's relatively minor impacts, but there are some property acquisition that's required. Most of it takes place as a result of some changes to the service roads and some of the bridge approaches, and there's some things very minor, but there are some total takes. I'm not going to where we will be acquiring some businesses and some residents. We do have our right-of-way acquisition process beginning. We've identified areas, and again, most are we call them partial takes, where it's only a clip of property that that's required to change some radius and some turning movements at corners and a variety of smaller areas. So we've identified those, and we've identified also as part of our environmental document areas that we would be needing a complete section of some property, a complete parcel of property. And those are, you can look at those in the supplemental environmental impact statement that's shown on our website. And we do have a website, I-94 Detroit. I think, well, it's on the end of this presentation, also I-94Detroit.org, and Nate will be sure to be pointing participants to that website. We do, in the SEIS, Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement, we do have our conceptual plan, our modified conceptual plan that shows the actual build out of I-94 and where the impacts will take place. And let me just add, though, during during the right-of-way acquisition process, there is a required formal acquisition process and a communication process where we will be contacting property owners. There certainly will be no surprise. You'll have plenty of notice. There'll be discussions and interview process, and our real estate folks will be approaching any property owners that we will be impacting and have a complete discussion on the real estate acquisition process. So if you are anyone that will be experiencing any impacts from the project, will be approached by our real estate staff and the whole process in detail.
Thank you, Terry. I'm glad that you brought that up, because obviously, you know, that can be a very exhaustive process. We know that, but I think that we have, number one, I think we have completely, I won't say completely, but we've minimized the property impacts for the I-94 modernization project. And I think we'll have a very robust but very strategic and targeted communication with those property owners. And I think really to the point where we want to make sure that that process is transparent and is communicative, meaning that we don't want any fraudulent activity going on with property acquisitions and folks approaching those residents with less than honorable intention. So we're going to have to the public, we're going to have a very robust real estate, but fraud, meaning that we don't want anyone to be duped. We don't want anyone to be misled by outside forces that could potentially lay prey. So thank you, Terry. We appreciate that. We have a chat. We have another question in from our chat line. When will the Grand River Avenue Bridge, when the Grand River Avenue Bridge gets rebuilt next year, will it be completely closed or be done the way the Gratiot Avenue Bridge was done in 2018? Mark, you are the closure expert, detour expert. Could you shed some light on that?
Sure. Yep. So the Grand River Bridge will be a complete closure. We did look at when we were going through the design to keep it as a part width similar to Gratiot, but really the condition of the bridge wouldn't allow for that. And with the Grand River Bridge closure, there is a good detour. We actually use I-96 to get traffic around. And for local traffic, Linwood is there just to the east. So it is a very short detour, and that's really our options were limited really just due to the condition of the bridge. So
thank you, Mark. I just got word to our audience that we have 100% completion rate with our survey. And I want to thank you all for your participation in completing the survey. Thank you. It really, truly helps us to do our engagement at a higher level. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, while we're waiting for additional questions to come in, Mark, I have a question for you. Could you, in simple terms, just kind of go into and tell us what is the process when you find out that we're going to be closing, obviously demolishing and reconstructing a bridge? How do you formulate your detour routes and maps that mimic or that lessen the impacts, if you will, on the community, on especially our residential community? What goes into that?
Sure. Yep. So I guess once we of a closure, we we reach out to many stakeholders. So obviously, you know, the local, you know, cities, City of Detroit, as well as other users and stakeholders of it. So businesses in the area, you know, busing, DDOT, SMART, to basically understand from them, you know, how they're using the bridge and the people in the local area. For any, you know, closures on the freeway or freeway ramps, MDOT routes, we always try to detour that traffic to other freeways or state routes. You know, so for the freeway closure, we're using Gratiot and 8 Mile, which are both state routes. So just with the vehicle class and vehicles that use that, those roads can handle that, you know, traffic better. And then on the local side, you know, we look for the closest available detour. So especially for pedestrians, we want to find the closest closure or crossing for them. As you know, for pedestrians to walk extra distance can be very time consuming. And for the pedestrian routes as well, we look at to make sure that they're accessible for ADA. And if not, we go in beforehand and make improvements to those routes, you know, sidewalk improvements to make sure that you know, accommodates all users. So it's really kind of a back and forth working with the City of Detroit, local stakeholders, and, you know, then communicating that message to the community, you know, in settings like this, or, you know, meeting with larger stakeholders in the city to let them know of the plans.
Thank you. That's good information. Because I always wanted, you know, how do you come up with these routes? And I, you know, I just think that it is so important, you know, just really the deliberation that goes into it, the planning that goes into it, with the community in mind first, especially our residential community, in lessening those impacts, lessening the impacts that, you know, are created from construction and or demolition of those bridges. And I'm sure as we get into the freeway portion of the construction, those same principles and same processes will be administered to. Terry, I have a question for you. You've been at this for a while now. You have been at this I-94 project for a while. It's picking up steam. You know, those benchmark dates. Obviously, the big benchmark was the ROD and the successful completion of the SEIS and ultimately the ROD. And now, you know, we can see you know, that light at the end of the tunnel with obviously the advanced bridges going forward. But you know, in 23, we're going to start construction. Through this process, Terry, what stands out for you as the senior project manager who's been day to day at this for a while? What stands out? What do you hold up, and what have been some of the successes? What do you look forward to? And then, you know, let's talk about some of the challenges that have existed getting the project to this point.
Okay. Well, one of the things that came out during my portion of the discussion is the stakeholder engagement and the collaboration and how the project has transformed to what it was in the 90s to what it is now. And I'm very proud of how our team listened to the public, responded, modified the plans accordingly. And this is so huge. Yes, I have been at this a long time. When I originally became, when I was involved with the project originally, there was a lot of opposition to the project. That we were separating the community even further. The service roads were high-speed standard service roads that would promote greater volumes of traffic moving through neighborhoods. There was a big concern about that, and the connectivity that people couldn't get to and where we were. So what I I think most happy with, proud of, is the collaboration that we've had with stakeholders, with the city, with the residents, with motorists, so that we've modified the service roads so that they're lower speed and they fit greater into the community. We've added bridges along the corridor to reconnect the community, and we've worked towards making sure that the I-94 project really meets the current and future needs of the city and of motorists, businesses, and the community in general. So the response and the transition of I-94 has really made a huge difference. Like I say, there was a great amount of opposition, and that's really gone away. And we've heard very, very positive things about the changes that we've made. So I think that is I'm so happy on how we have transformed the project into what it is today to meet the current and future needs of stakeholders.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. Couple questions have come in. How many bridges has MDOT rebuilt so far? Terry, while you have the mic, we're gonna throw this one to you. How many bridges has MDOT rebuilt so far on I-94? How many more advanced?
Sorry, go ahead.
And how many more advanced bridges will be rebuilt before you start working on the freeway? And then when will we start getting info about closures and other construction info about the start of the freeway closure? So 3 questions. Let's just start with how many bridges has MDOT rebuilt so far in 94?
11 comes to mind for some reason. And
okay.
Other members of the team can jump in, and I'd start counting on my fingers here.
There you go.
I know 15 is Gratiot and Van Dyke. I won't take the time to go through all of them, but I think we're close to that. Okay. And but yeah, the key I remember, Gratiot and Van Dyke were first and foremost, and we moved to Woodward also was an I-94 I-94 bridge. But we did that early to accommodate the Q line. And we've been marching 2 or 3 a year for several years now. And a little background on that is we meet regularly with the people that do the bridge inspections to make sure that if a bridge falls into the poor condition, that we consider it to be an advanced bridge and work on it sooner than what we originally had planned. And Trumbull is one of those bridges. We inspect all the bridges along the corridor on a regular basis to monitor them, and if they warrant advanced work, then we make them an advanced bridge and move forward with those bridges if necessary. And we just had one of those meetings with our bridge inspectors a couple days ago to again review the corridor and the bridges. So somewhere, like I say, I think somewhere around 11. How many do we have to go? We've
and how many do we have to go before we start working on the freeway? So
okay. Well, we've got right now advanced these 3: Burns, Cadillac, Frontenac. We've got 3 more bridges that we're going to be moving forward on in 2022. And then in 2023, we've got the complete corridor, and we've got 6 bridges associated with the corridor. And once we begin with corridor construction, we're going to be designing and constructing those bridges that are in each segment together with the roadway itself. So that'll be either packaged together as construction. We'll work out the details of that. But generally, as we move into those major sections and we work down on the freeway, those bridges that are within that same section of work will be designed and constructed as part of that work, that road work. Sure. So that's how the bridge section will be over. And then we'll be moving as a package in each area. And there's 2 other bridges that I didn't mention too. We've got 2 train bridges, railroad bridges along the corridor, designing too. And we didn't make those advanced bridges so much because of their condition, but because the coordination with the railroads, it can be a lengthy process to coordinate their rail traffic. How are we going to build it? Rail bridges are difficult, and we wanted to get an early start on those to make sure that we have those bridges taken care of before we move down to the road. And let me too add that one of the things we're doing, this question has come up in the past, that are these advanced bridges going to fit into the future freeway construction? Oh, yes. One of the main things that we consider, and this was something that the Federal Highway Administration said right from the start, is you need to minimize any throwaway work. Any work that you do in advance has to fit with the future corridor. So we're always cognizant of that. We're always making sure that these advanced bridges will fit the future corridor. So they're designed and built wide enough to fit the future freeway, and that fits into the service road configuration the best that it can. So when we come in, everything will fit together. And I mentioned the Federal Highway Administration. You get me on a roll here of the talking points. But another question that always comes in is who's funding this? And I mentioned the role of FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, providing oversight. Well, they also provide up to over 80% of the funding for this project too. 80% is federal, somewhere around 20% state funding with no local funding involved. So it's not, this project is funded through the Federal Highway Administration, federal funds, state funds, with no requirement for the city to participate in the funding at all.
Thank you, Terry. We have another question out of our chat. And Terry, Mark, I think this, both for you, when rebuilding happens with I-94, will this be a fully closed or a lane shift closure for 94?
Yeah, so I can take that. So we're still evaluating, all options for how we'll maintain traffic during construction. It'll probably look differently as we move through the corridor. So starting on the east side, where we're not as constrained, that with our cross section there, we should be able to maintain 2 lanes of traffic in both directions during construction. But as we move farther to the west and we get into some of the interchange construction at I-75 and M10, areas in those segments will be more challenging to maintain traffic while we do construction. So we're still looking at the best ways to maintain mobility and evaluating all options. But there is a potential that in some of those segments there might be some short-term closures that might be necessary.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And with that,
Yep.
that will conclude our question and answer portion of our presentation. And I want to thank you all, thank our presenters. It's clear that you all are truly engaged and have a wealth of knowledge about the I-94 project, and I thank you for that. Those are all great questions that we got and received, and I appreciate that. And if you have other questions to our audience, if you have other questions during construction, please reach out to Victor Judnick, Senior Resident Engineer, HNTB, at 248-249-1084. His email is V Judnick, that's VJUDNIC @hntb.com. Again, that's Victor Judnick, HNTB 248-249-1084, or V Judnick, VJUDNIC @hntb.com, or Andrea Wilcox, MDOT's Projects and Contracts Administration Engineer, at 313-965-6350. Email is Wilcox, that's WILCOX A2 @michigan.gov. Again, Andrea Wilcox, 313-965-6350. Email WILCOX A2 @michigan.gov. Both Victor and Andrea will be directly involved with the bridges, the day-to-day bridges, and they will be accessible. If you have any questions regarding Cadillac, Burns, or Frontenac, please reach out to either Victor or Andrea. Also, this information will be posted on the I-94 project website at i94detroit.org. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. If there are no more questions, and I don't think I see any more or have any more questions in our queue, in our chat, I want to thank the participants. Thank you all for joining us this morning in hearing about the I-94 modernization project, specifically the Burns Cadillac Frontenac Bridge reconstruction. I'd like to thank you again for taking time out of your, I'm sure, your busy days to join us. On behalf of the MDOT project management team, I'd like to say please stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day and week. Thank you all. Signing off.